รายการต่อไปนี้เป็นรายการทั่วไปสามารถรับชมได้ทุกวัย
สนับสนุนโดยแลกเงินด้วยบัตรเครดิตกสิกรไทยเที่ยวก่อนจ่ายทีหลังไม่มีค่าธรรมเนียมผ่อนชำระได้จากธนาคารกสิกรไทย
สวัสดีค่ะทุกวันนี้การถ่ายคลิปวิดีโอผ่านโทรศัพท์มือถือเป็นเรื่องธรรมดาทำให้มีคลิปวิดีโอมากมายในโลกอินเทอร์เน็ต Storyful สำนักข่าวยุคดิจิทัลเห็นศักยภาพของคลิปวิดีโอเหล่านี้เลยทำหน้าที่เป็นตัวกลางในการเลือกเฟ้นคลิปวิดีโอที่น่าสนใจแล้วส่งต่อให้กับสำนักข่าวใหญ่ๆทั่วโลก Storyful มีวิธีการในการทำงานอย่างไรโดยเฉพาะอย่างยิ่งในการตรวจสอบความถูกต้องของคลิปวิดีโอและการรับมือกับ Fake News หรือว่าข่าวปลอมซึ่งนับวันจะระบาดมากยิ่งขึ้นเราจะพูดคุยกับคุณโอเวนสวิตนีนักข่าวอาวุโสของ Storyful ค่ะ Storyful คือสำนักข่าวที่รวบรวมคลิปวิดีโอต่างๆที่ถูกโพสต์บนสื่อสังคมออนไลน์เช่น YouTube, Facebook และ Twitter แล้วนำมาวิเคราะห์ความน่าสนใจพร้อมตรวจสอบความถูกต้องของคลิปว่าเป็นเรื่องจริงหรือไม่เพื่อส่งต่อให้ลูกค้าที่เป็นสื่อหลักอย่างเช่น Wall Street Journal, New York Times, BBC, ABC News รวมถึง YouTube Newswire ได้ใช้ประโยชน์จากคลิปวิดีโอเหล่านั้นการกลั่นกรองและตรวจสอบคลิปต่างๆโดย Storyful ทำให้สื่อหลักไม่ต้องกังวลเรื่องคลิปปลอมซึ่งจะสร้างความเสื่อมเสียและความไม่น่าเชื่อถือให้องค์กรได้โดยเฉพาะอย่างยิ่งในปัจจุบัน Fake News หรือข่าวปลอมกำลังเป็นประเด็นปัญหาสำคัญอย่างมากในแวดวงข้อมูลข่าวสาร What is actually fake news?
Fake news I would categorize as something that is put out there that is knowingly not true or knowingly distorts the facts.
It's a lie.
Yes, it's a lie basically, and it is a lie that is told for a specific purpose to influence politics, to influence behavior, to influence society. So it's a form of propaganda that's almost impossible to stamp out because it doesn't have a single source, it has a multitude of sources.
Why do you think it's quite easy for people to believe fake news?
Because they want to a lot of the time, because there's huge amounts of information coming out there that seems to make sense, and a lot of it involves classic propaganda techniques. You know, you feed people a certain amount of truth and you slip a piece of disinformation in there. So their brain is primed to believe this already, and it just consumes the poison pill with the main meal. So that's one of the things. And people are also bombarded with information now. So they're open to receiving information, and they don't evaluate sources, they don't evaluate the nature of the information.
Which type of news are usually made into fake news?
A lot of it is political, as we've seen, you know, several countries that have had elections and votes manipulated by, what would I say, unreliable information. Then it could be financial, you know, one of the things I always say, when you're evaluating fake news and the sources of fake news, you need to look at it and say, as the Latin term is, cui bono, who benefits? When you're looking at a news story that's come out and you suspect it may be fake, you have to look and say, well, why has this emerged? Is somebody benefiting from this? Is somebody getting something in return from hundreds of thousands of people believing this?
Where do fake news come from?
Where does fake news come from is like a huge variety of sources. And we've seen, for example, in the run-up to the US election, there was a small town in Macedonia, of all places in southeastern Europe, where guys had realized there was a huge audience for this kind of sensational information. And they had made an entire living from it. These guys were building websites and they were making up the kind of news stories that they knew people were interested in clicking on. It would be like sensational information about Hillary Clinton or something else like this. And then they were monetizing the clicks. So they were making money off Google AdWords and off other stuff like this. So that's a financial incentive for creating fake news. Then obviously there's the political incentive. Can you bend the electorate to your will by misleading them? And those I think are the two big ones. I mean, very often it could be just for mischief. Somebody creates a fake story and it gets huge viral attraction and they feel happy. They're like, wow, I tricked all these clever people and all these journalists.
เว็บไซต์ข่าว BuzzFeed รวบรวมข้อมูลและพบว่า3อันดับข่าวปลอมที่คนนิยมที่สุดได้แก่ 1. ข่าวโอบามาลงนามให้ยกเลิกการกล่าวปฏิญาณตนในโรงเรียนทั่วประเทศซึ่งมีคนแชร์คอมเมนต์และกดแสดงความรู้สึกรวม 2,177,000 ครั้ง 2. ข่าวสมเด็จพระสันตะปาปาฟรานซิสออกแถลงการหนุนโดนัลด์ทรัมป์ให้เป็นประธานาธิบดีมีคนแชร์คอมเมนต์และกดแสดงความรู้สึก 961,000 ครั้งและ 3. คือข่าวทรัมป์เสนอตั๋วเครื่องบินฟรีขาไปขาเดียวบินกลับแอฟริกาและเม็กซิโกมีคนแชร์คอมเมนต์และกดแสดงความรู้สึก 820,000 ครั้ง
Which platforms tend to have more fake news? Facebook or Twitter?
I think it's a very democratic system in that way. I don't think anyone's dominating. There's the whole what used to be referred to as the blogosphere, the blogs that proliferate across the internet. They're very often the starting point for it. But then, of course, you know, the bigger the platform, the greater the reach, the more it's used to spread these things. So people who are intentionally trying to spread misinformation will naturally gravitate to the platforms that have the greatest reach. So they will go to Facebook, they'll go to Twitter, and they will do everything in their power to spread it via those channels.
Facebook ถูกโจมตีว่าไม่สามารถจัดการข่าวปลอมได้จนส่งผลกระทบต่อการเลือกตั้งประธานาธิบดีสหรัฐที่ผ่านมาด้วยเหตุนี้ Facebook จึงได้ประกาศเพิ่มฟีเจอร์ใหม่ที่ให้ผู้ใช้กดรายงานได้ว่าข่าวไหนเป็นข่าวปลอมโดยจะมีธงเตือนภัยปรากฏขึ้นในโพสต์คอยเตือนไม่ให้คนอื่นหลงเชื่อหรือแชร์ต่อ
You know, you have companies like Facebook and Google and these companies and they say, let's stamp out fake news. Let's bring a halt to fake news. That's an impossible task. That's like, you know, the old game of whack-a-mole. When you knock one down, another one pops up. And that's what happens with this because every time you create a reporting system, somebody figures out a way to abuse it and to manipulate it. Every time you write a new algorithm to try to do this with software, somebody figures out a way to abuse the algorithm. So I really don't think fake news can be stopped from emerging in the first place. So to me, what's important is education. In a nutshell, it's all about education because at a time when we have access to exponentially more information than ever in human history, far more, it seems to me that people are less and less equipped to deal with it. You just look at you go home and you open up your Facebook feed and you look at some of the things some of your friends are sharing and you're going to yourself, how can they believe this? How can people think this is true? I really think we have reached a point where we need to get critical thinking, logical fallacies, practical philosophy. We need to get these things into the core school curriculum from a young age and equip people to deal with this fake information and misinformation before they become bombarded with it.
How can we spot fake news?
Is it something that you would want to believe? Is it something that fits in with your preconceptions and makes you want to believe it? In that case, look at it more carefully. Then you look at the sources. Who are the people sharing this? What is their background? If possible, is that the person's real name? Is that their real photograph that's on their blog? What other stories have they shared? Look into their social media feeds. What are their political beliefs? There are so many things you can look into, and it may sound very complicated, but when you do this for a while, a lot of it becomes almost like muscle memory. You know, you're doing it automatically without thinking.
ในแต่ละนาทีบนโลกโซเชียลมีคนอัปโหลดคลิปวิดีโอเป็นร้อยๆชั่วโมงที่นั่นจึงเป็นแหล่งข้อมูลที่ดีที่สุดที่สื่อไม่สามารถมองข้ามได้อีกต่อไป Storyful เป็นสำนักข่าวที่ใช้เทคโนโลยีและทักษะความเป็นสื่อมวลชนในการเสาะหาคลิปวิดีโอต่างๆที่โพสต์อยู่บนสื่อสังคมออนไลน์เพื่อเลือกเฟ้นพิจารณาว่าคลิปไหนน่าสนใจมีคุณค่าที่จะเป็นข่าวได้โดยมีการตรวจสอบความถูกต้องว่าเกิดขึ้นจริงหรือไม่และเป็นตัวกลางระหว่างเจ้าของคลิปกับสื่อหลักต่างๆในการเอาคลิปนั้นไปใช้ประโยชน์และสร้างรายได้ Storyful ก่อตั้งขึ้นในปี 2009 โดย Mark Little นักข่าวชาวไอริชและถูกซื้อโดย News Corp องค์กรสื่อยักษ์ใหญ่ระดับโลกในปี 2013 Storyful มีสำนักงานใหญ่อยู่ที่เมืองดับลินและมีสำนักงานอีกหลายแห่งทั่วโลกเช่นลอนดอนซิดนีย์นิวยอร์กและฮ่องกง
What does Storyful do?
Storyful began 6-7 years ago as a news agency that is dedicated to social media mostly, and what we refer to quite inelegantly as user-generated content, which basically means video from non-professional sources, video from ordinary people. So the guys who started the company, there are a couple of guys who came up with this vision and said, these days, because of the proliferation of smartphones and small cameras, there's almost always someone closer to the story than a journalist. And the idea was, how can we get that content? So it was a three-strand thing. It was discovery, verification, and clearance. Discovery meant finding it as quickly as possible. So if you walked out the door here and you saw a tornado come down Sealam Road and you whipped out your phone and got video of it and you put it online, our mission would be, we need to find that right now. We've heard that there's been a tornado in Bangkok. How do we find that really quickly? The next step is the really complex one, the verification. How do we know that that was taken on the street out here? How do we know that it was from today and not a previous similar incident? And once we've verified and we're happy that it is what it says it is, the next step is finding the person who shot that originally, getting in touch with them, and getting their permission and conditions for news media to use it. So, it could be they want to be paid if it's really dramatic, or it could be they're happy to get it out there just with their name attached to it. Some people will say, put it out there and the credit should be a link to my website. So they do get something back, they get a lot of views. There are a lot of ways, and one of my colleagues who was right back there right at the very start, and I always have huge respect for him because he said, these people are ordinary people who are creating compelling and dramatic news content. They should be getting compensated in the same way professional journalists do. So we came up with a system of monetizing videos and of licensing videos, and a lot of people have done very well because there are people who put something online not realizing it had monetary value of any kind. And we've contacted them and said, yes, we can license this to all these news channels. We don't buy the video directly. We don't say, here's $500, we now own that video. They're due a royalty every time it's used, and it could get used again 6 months from now in a news roundup, and again they get a licensing sale or a licensing royalty.
So where does income for Storyful come from?
Income from Storyful comes from a variety of sources. One is the news organizations who subscribe to us as media partners or clients, and some of the biggest news organizations in the world, Reuters, New York Times, ABC News, all over the world, in Australia, in Asia, across Europe. And they don't buy videos one at a time. They work on a subscription basis where, depending on the fee they pay to the company, they get access to a certain amount of material, and there's a sliding scale. Obviously the more you subscribe to, the more you get. Then there are other things like with the licensing thing, Storyful will get a commission on the licensed video. So you get your amazing tornado video, and instead of you selling it for $100 to a single news outlet, you sell it for less, but you sell it to many outlets. So in the end, you make a lot more, and Storyful takes a commission from that. So it's a service you're providing to the owner of a video, and you're getting a commission in return.
How do you actually verify all the video clips in the world?
The basics are, so for example, visual cues are very, very important. If you did shoot that video on the street out here, I would look and see, and you put your caption in your video saying Ceylon Road, Bangkok. I would then go to Google Maps and try to get a view, try to figure out from the video. You would look at the video, look at the background. Is there something distinctive there? Is there a street sign or a monument or a building with a peculiar shape? Then you go into mapping applications such as Google Maps and you try to match things up. It's almost like doing puzzles. It can be very, very enjoyable. It can be very satisfying. It can also be very frustrating when something doesn't give you the slam dunk you needed. But that would be the lion's share of the verification would be visual. But then you also try to analyze sources. You know, you look at something and you're saying, is this person reliable? Do they have a history of producing bogus content? Are they somebody that we're aware of? Do we know who they are? You look into people's background and say, you know, for example, if this person's video is from this street here, but their 10 previous videos are from Alaska, then you're thinking, hang on, this may not be the owner of this video, or, you know, either that or they just moved overnight. So it's a lot of stuff like this. You try to build up a picture of reliability and of believability. It's almost, at times, it's almost like building a court case. You know, you're looking for all the little pieces of evidence that will allow you to build a strong picture.
How do you choose which videos that you actually want to verify and keep it in your catalog or in your filing?
Yeah, it's a combination of a few things. One thing we do a lot of is discovery. So we use Twitter very much for this, and we build very carefully curated Twitter lists of people in different parts of the world. And we're able to monitor these using TweetDeck, which allows you to monitor multiple Twitter lists at one time. So we keep an eye on those. We refer to that kind of colloquially within the company as the newswire. It's not a newswire, it's Twitter feeds, but it functions as a newswire for us. So we're able to watch areas, then sometimes topics. You know, we'll have a list that's dedicated to, say, weather or national security or things like that. And when we see something in that interests us, we will go after it and we will try to get the relevant content. Now, along with that, we're in constant contact with clients and partners via messaging systems, and sometimes they will see something they're interested in and they will make a bespoke request and say, oh, we saw something about a protest in Birmingham. Is there any chance you guys could get us some video from that? And we set to work on it straight away, and hopefully more often than not we come back with something worthwhile.
นอกจากการทำงานร่วมกับองค์กรข่าวใหญ่ๆแล้ว Storyful ยังทำงานร่วมกับแบรนด์และเอเจนซี่โฆษณาต่างๆในการมองหาคลิปที่น่าจะเป็นไวรัลวิดีโอหรือคลิปวิดีโอที่จะมีคนกดไลค์และแชร์ต่อๆกันเป็นจำนวนมากเพื่อนำมาใช้ประโยชน์ในด้านการตลาดได้
Do you tend to get video clips for everything in the world today? Because people post them all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we do see videos from all kinds of stuff. There's an entirely other section of the company which I don't really work with a lot, who deal in viral video. So the kind of thing that a few years ago you're out with your friends and you do something silly and you just thought, oh, this is funny, I'll put it on YouTube for my friends to look at or on Facebook. And for some reason it's got that little something that causes it to go insanely viral. And just what you thought was a bit of fun is suddenly a very, very valuable video because it's getting thousands or even millions of hits. And our viral team's special in that kind of stuff. I always joke with them, I say, I have no idea whether that's going to be viral or not. You guys will know. And just simple things like a video a couple of years ago of a German guy who was jumping into a swimming pool that was frozen and he thought he'd go through the ice, but he just came down with a huge bang. And when I saw it, I just kind of laughed at first, and then I ran it by a couple of other guys, and they're like, yeah, that's really funny. I think it ended up being the most viewed video on YouTube that year.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, you have to be careful also, because if somebody is doing something very risky, you have to make a decision. do we license that and encourage other people to think that if
You
I
can
take
earn money.
risks, I can make money? And you do not. We're very much opposed to the idea of encouraging people to put themselves at risk, even if it's an indirect effect.
In terms of media landscape today, how much do you think has changed, especially in this digital age?
Yeah, I think in terms of the means of delivery and in terms of the way things are packaged, so much has changed. But for me, I think the things that are at the foundation of journalism have to remain unchanged. The journalistic fundamentals of objectivity, of skepticism, of treating everything with the same respect that you always have before, that needs to be maintained. So I think there are huge challenges, but I think you can't go wrong by continuing to observe the same fundamental values in journalism that you always had.
Is journalism dead?
I don't think it is, and I don't think journalism will ever be dead. I think journalism is transformed beyond the recognition. If you were a time traveler from 25, 50, 75 years ago, it would be hard to recognize journalism these days. But if you look deeply, you would see that it still has the same thing at its core, which is informing people.
But the content, must it be different between traditional media like television or newspapers compared to on the internet, social media?
There are a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. One of them is that you have to get your message across very quickly because people's attention span has shortened. You see, like, you go to a slow loading website and you just get fed up after 3 seconds, you click away. So you need to get the attention quickly, and this has led to the rise of unhealthy things like what we call clickbait, headlines that just aim to draw the person in. And sometimes you go in and you think that headline was not accurate, but they've got your click on the page then. Yeah, you need to watch out for that. You also have to be cognizant of the fact that you are just accessing so much more information all the time, so you have to be able to evaluate it. And also, there's much greater competition. The barriers to entry for a publisher have fallen to the point where they're practically non-existent. Anybody can publish. Anybody can start a website, anyone can start a blog, and if it's persuasive enough, it can take a big chunk of readership away from a traditional source. And that can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. But you have to recognize that it exists. The barriers to entry are not there anymore. And in one way that democratizes reporting, but in other ways it allows, it's a wild west, it's unregulated in a way that has never been before.
Will TV journalists may be out of job soon?
I don't think so, because a good journalist will always find a way to adapt and move with the times. I think the greatest example, the New York Times, is amazing. It's adapted to the whole digital sphere brilliantly, and subscriptions have gone up and they're doing really well and everything. And you have others too. I mean, The Guardian and others who, they've figured out ways to make this work for them. I think the future of journalism is to continue to think on your feet and to find ways to field the challenges that come at you and to develop. It's part of the way everything works now, not just media, that you have to be able to react quickly and respond without losing sight of your original core values.
สิ่งที่ Storyful ทำถือเป็นการปรับตัวรูปแบบหนึ่งที่น่าสนใจของสื่อในยุคปัจจุบันแต่ไม่ว่าจะปรับตัวแบบไหนพื้นฐานที่สำคัญของการรายงานข่าวก็ยังคงเหมือนเดิมนั่นก็คือความถูกต้องแม่นยำของข้อมูลโดยเฉพาะอย่างยิ่งในยุคนี้ที่ข้อมูลข่าวสารท่วมท้นและแพร่กระจายอย่างรวดเร็วค่ะพบกันใหม่สัปดาห์หน้าวันนี้สวัสดีค่ะ